There are the coaching trees that we hear in sports where a coach then goes on to breed a lot of their ex-players and coaches around them. They go on to have greater and bigger things in their own lives. And then there are the broadcast trees. And when I think of somebody who has really built an amazing broadcast tree, would be my guest today. And Jordan Hassler, he is Chief Operating Officer at BEK Sports and BEK News. You think about everybody under him and that he has worked with. They've gone on to do incredible things, as is Jordan right now. He joins me on the Honest Something podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley, a network television volleyball broadcaster. And this is a place, Jordan, where we get to shine light on your story, not only in the working world, but also your life outside of work. So I'm excited about this, excited to have you on, and looking forward to the conversation.
For sure. Let's do it.
Let's have some fun here. So I know you're a dad, you've got three boys. So what do those three boys of yours think about the fun you get to do at work and what you get to do?
Yeah, I guess that they don't know any better or any different. I've been at this thing at least at BEK TV for almost 18 years. I've been in the broadcast business since I was 16. So they don't know any different. Now as the business has progressed, I spend less time on the road and more time dealing with sales and operations and that type of stuff. So maybe my oldest, who's 11, remembers me coming home late and those type of things. But for the most part, they get to see me on TV very randomly. Outside of that, I'm just dad, and the TV part's cool. They wear a lot of the swag, which is good. But outside of that, they kind of it's just old hat for them. I've been doing it so long. So
Well, you've got a hat on that represents the swag and your company. And by the way, BEK Sports, BEK News is a media giant in the Midwest. So I encourage everybody. Obviously, a lot of people are familiar with your product as it continues to grow, but those from outside of the regions, please get on board with what they are doing. So you mentioned the fun that you get to have and how that rubs off with your kids and what they think of you. How about you as a basketball coach? Say when you are coaching your kids in said sport, what am I going to see out of a Jordan Hassler in that setting that I'm not going to see maybe in a board meeting getting ready to figure out how we're going to air certain said television broadcast?
I have a football over my one shoulder, and you can't see the basketball. I wasn't a round baller a whole lot. I was a wrestler in high school,
Okay.
but I do have the fortune to be able to coach third and fourth grade tackle football here in Bismarck. I've been the head coach for 2 years. Been on the staff for 4 years. It's a lot of fun. I don't. I'm a pretty laid back guy. I like to have fun. I'm the coach that asked the kids how lunch was and what they did at recess. So we have other coaches on our staff that can be, the intense guys and the push and the run. But I'm the fun coach, which is awesome. Get a chance to coach my younger kids in wrestling as well. And then my oldest, this last year, I got thrown in. I got voted in, I guess, to coach baseball, and that was it was interesting. Kids in the summer want to run, they want to play. And even though baseball is America's pastime, in this area, baseball isn't as big. And so these kids want to go out and play. So they're coming to practice and they really don't want to be there. And it's hot. But we had a chance as a team to kind of be, back and forth all season. I think we were like 4-5, and they play a mini tournament at the end of the year. And the kids got hot at the right time, and we made the right decisions and ended up winning that tournament with a team that really probably had no business being there. So it's been really fun. Again, laid back, just, I'm a black and white guy. There's not a lot of gray with me. I wake up every day trying to just enjoy what the day brings, and very positive. I've done some motivational speaking for a pharmaceutical company of a medication I was taking. I've had multiple sclerosis for the last, 11 years, 12 years. So I've been dealing with that. And so I got the opportunity to travel around the world and United States and talk to different people and share my story and maybe give them some hope. So that was incredibly beneficial. But yeah, I mean, listen, life is too short, and you can look and find the negative in all the places. Just turn the TV on, and you can find it, right? But in my world, in my life, I as you can imagine, I'm the center of attention. Sometimes it is given, sometimes it's taken. But I enjoy it. Listen, let's go get the day before the day gets you, and that's really what it comes down to.
Where do you find all of these escapes through that which, yeah, as life can be hard in its own right, and given all of the things that you've been through, where you are able to find those escapes?
With kids. I mean, with the kids is the biggest one. Get a chance to coach and like I said, get to this year because the weather's been so weird up here in North Dakota. Normally we get it on the ice and we go ice fishing, get a chance to take my kids ice fishing. This year that didn't happen. We just get a chance to get out, have a boat, get to go fishing in the summer. But as my kids have gotten older, I mean, last weekend my wife and I divided and conquered. She took my oldest to a basketball tournament 100 miles away from town. They left Friday night. On Saturday morning, I took my two youngest to a wrestling tournament here in Bismarck. We did that. We were at the Bismarck Event Center from 8:15 to 3:45. Ran home, changed clothes, grabbed our stuff, drove to Dickinson, which again is 100 miles away. Watched the kids, let the kids swim and do their thing. And then Sunday we played basketball, and then came back. And this weekend we'll take all three of the boys up to Minot, which is 100 miles north of here. We're wrestling tournament on Saturday. We'll drive back Saturday night, and then we have a basketball tournament in town on Sunday. So being active is important to me, giving them a chance to try different things. And they're all different. All three of my kids are different. And so just being with them, I think is the biggest value. And again, you have all the people that play in the sports domain and say it's never a day of work in your life, and they're liars because it's hard work. And I think people think it's pretty easy. And the reality is the 2.5 hours you see on TV as Bryan, is 1/10, 1/20th of the work that goes into it. So we produce a lot of content here. We produce somewhere between 350, 400 games a year. And so we're doing a lot of things and we pump games out, but ultimately it's still a lot of fun. And I try to make it fun as best as I can.
What's it like being a parent of a child when you're watching said child at a wrestling event?
Awful. It's not easy. I would tell you that for a large portion of my life, maybe from the time I was 18 to the time I was, 28, 29, I wasn't at a sporting event unless I was commentating it or I was running camera or I was directing. And so I can't go to a sporting event even today at 38 and not see the shortcomings of the venue or what this issue is, or look where cameras could go or where we would mount microphones. And so so for that part it's difficult. The wrestling part's a little bit easier because I understand kind of what's going on. My a couple of my kids play soccer. I fill my coffee cup up, I grab my bag chair and I sit and watch. Very laid back in that regard. Basketball, very laid back in that regard, but wrestling I get a little bit into it. And football, obviously, as a coach, it's incredibly enjoyable. And like I said, taking this last year, I thought it was interesting. My oldest was on to the next league and my youngest was a year short. And so unbeknownst to my wife, I decided I was going to coach again. And I had my coaches meeting before the season started. And I had all the parents there, and I said to them, I said, just before we get started, I want everybody to take a look around, and everybody you see has a kid on this team but one. And they kind of all looked around and I said, and I raised my hand, I said, it's me. I said, so just remember, I'm here because I want to be here. I'm here because I want to see these kids grow. I want to have the fun. I want to have the excitement. I want to see the light bulb go off. I mean, all the coaches had kids in the team. All the parents over there had kids in the team. I was the only one that didn't have a kid in the team, but donated my time, went, enjoyed it. And we've been fortunate enough, whether it's the coaching, whether it's the kids, whether it's a mix of both. That team over the last 4 years has not lost a game. Last year, we outscored our opponents 256 to 32. And it's fun, right? Winning's fun. But seeing kids get it and seeing kids succeed. And we've had, some kids with learning disabilities that want to play football, and let's go, right? We have kids that get sick and parents are like, well, can they come to the game? Yeah, that's not their fault. They're sick. I mean, what are you going to do? Right. So creating that atmosphere, I think, is important to me, and bringing them some sort of, hour and a half, 2 hours a day, 3 days a week in the games, just to kind of enjoy it. And I think kids at this age are so, I think they're so singled in their life. Their life tends to get kind of singled out, and they only spend so much time by themselves, and we've gotten wrapped up in electronics, we've wrapped up in the internet and all these different things. So hard to be a part of a team, and I think being a part of a team and understanding that's incredibly important. And sometimes you're the all-star and sometimes you're not, and sometimes you're the role player, and understanding that and being able to play all those roles, I think is incredibly important. And I see that with my kids, and my oldest is a role player. My middle one, I think, will probably end up being that athlete, that all-star, and the third one is 5 and he doesn't know what he's going to do yet, right? So just playing all the roles and understanding that and being able to coach them and help them, and then when they need to just do their thing, you let them do their thing.
I'm hearing you recap some of these scores of these games, and I'm like, this guy's got a really good memory. the way in which you're like something over 200 to something else. And what I can glean from you, Jordan, is you have a very analytical brain. Your brain fires on all cylinders at 110% every single waking moment of your life. And you're very mathematical with the way in which you look at things. How have you gotten so good with numbers? How have they been so congruent to who you are?
I would say that, people always say, you sure talk fast. And I said, You only knew that the speed of the words coming out of my mouth is about half as fast as they're spinning in my head. And I think, um, from my standpoint, you always have to look forward. You always have to look at the next best thing. And I think in sports, and remember, I've played every role. I've been a talent guy, been a camera guy, I've directed. And one of the greatest value propositions you have as a director in sports is not knowing what's happening, it's knowing what's going to happen next and preparing your team, your cameras, the pieces for what's happening next. So you have to be 2 or 3 steps ahead. And so I think I've taken that, kind of to heart. And I go back, listen, I got to BEK at 21. I was between my junior and senior year of college. The CEO now, Derek Bullowa, was just coming on. Then he was 5 months into his stint, and he was reaching out to different places, trying to find someone to run this brand new TV offering that they had. He'd reached out to some of the AV companies, and nobody really gave him the time of day. And he just so happened to reach out to Mike Chosey, who was one of my professors at the University of Mary, the private Catholic college here in Bismarck, and he happened to reach out to Mike one of the days I was there. And I said, let's go meet with this guy because I got a year left. Maybe this is something I could do. So I remember meeting at Grizzlies. I remember him having a yellow notepad and a red pen, and him kind of explaining it to us, and me thinking, yeah, this is something I could do. I was still in school. And so he had stated that his family was still in South Lake Tahoe, and what he would do, our corporate office is in Steele, which is about 40 miles away from Bismarck. And so every day he would drive out to Steele, work, drive back to Bismarck, work out at Optimum Fitness, eat at Texas Roadhouse, and then he stayed at the Ridge Motel in Mandan. And I thought to myself, how do I get in front of this guy? So I actually quit my job at Applebee's and took a job at Texas Roadhouse because I knew he'd be there. And so he would come in the bar and he would eat. And every time he would come in, I would be working and we would talk. And he'd give me some ideas and he'd give me some things to think about. And he would come back and we'd talk about them. And one day he said, let's meet. And so we met in the bar at Texas Roadhouse. And he said, here's the deal. We're going to put together a business plan and a financial model. It's going to take us 3 months. I'm going to pay you to do it. And if the board says yes, then we're off and running. If the board says no, we shake hands and we walk away. So that's fine. I got nothing to lose. So I put my 2 weeks in on a bar napkin that night, and got to work. Spent 2 months writing a business plan, which I'd never seen before, financial model, which I'd never seen. I did it in 2 months, put it in front of our board of directors, asked for $500,000, and they voted 7-1 yes. And him and I walked out that door, and he said, "The easy part's over. Now the work starts." And it's kind of been off and running. So my entire senior year, I was going to class 8, 9, 10, leaving at 11, driving 40 miles to Steele, and then working noon to 8. And I did that for an entire semester. And then the second semester I interned while we were building this business, and nobody wanted to help us. So here's a 21-year-old kid who clept a bunch of video classes because he was trying to start a business, and essentially was starting from the ground up. And I wasted a lot of money. I wasted a lot of time, a lot of effort doing the wrong things because I didn't know any better. But again, being able to at 38 in this day and age say that you were able to start a business, and be with it, since it started, and to see it grow, and I kind of positioned BEK TV. It's almost 18 years old. It's a senior in high school. It thinks it knows what it wants to be, but it's not sure. It's ornery. Some days are good, some days are bad. It wants to fight with you. So that's kind of how I position it. And it really was. I mean, I have 3 kids at home. We've talked about that, but this was my first baby. This was my first foray into this process. And I did a little broadcasting before, but this was mine. And so there's a sense of pride with it. There's the old adage of blood, sweat, and tears. All 3 of those things are in the time I've spent here, with BEK and what I've done, and working with Derek, and we have a great working relationship. And I've dumped chairs over. I've gotten shouty matches, and I've been told it's time for you to go home. But the next day, he understands that my ultimate goal is success, and so is his. So having a great relationship with him, and just being able to kind of grow this business to the point where we were just doing games in North Dakota, and now I've got a crew that's going to broadcast a professional volleyball federation game here in 3 hours from Atlanta, Georgia. So just being able to do those things and having the foresight to do them, I think is exciting, and it keeps it interesting on a daily basis.
How close is your brain to being a photographic memory?
I think there's some eidetic memory involved. I pride myself when I was calling games. Everybody nowadays uses either Get Stats or uses a computer, and I never did. I still have my old school book. They don't make anymore. I still take my basketball stats on a Mark V, the old green book at the scores table. And I would always check the next day when I was calling games how far off I was from the box score that was in the newspaper, and I was never more than 3 yards off. And in a football game, their over under is probably 5 yards, right? So just wanting to be good and wanting to be great and wanting to provide the service that the end users is expecting and can be proud of. Our parent company is a cooperative, so we're not owned by, we're not on the NASDAQ. We're not owned by shareholders. We're owned by farmers or ranchers. We're owned by businessmen and housewives. We're owned by bankers and farmers, and so we have to operate differently. We operate with the cooperative mentality, and I've done countless interviews and articles, and I always go back to the cooperative mentality of just knowing that when we do something wrong, our owners, right, our 11,000, 12,000 owners, I'm a phone call away. They'll walk into the office and they sit down and they tell me what they think, and so it's an interesting business to be a part of, but. Listen, sports is fun, right? Sports is the greatest reality TV there ever was. And keep in mind, my wife watches the Real Housewives of every urban city in America, right? So that's the new reality TV, but sports is reality TV. And that's really what it is. And it's fun. And the great part about it is you can play the same game 5 times and you're going to get different outcomes. So I think the great part about what we're doing here at BEK is we do so many games, and I tell my guys all the time that I had I had a college football coach, Myron Schultz here in Bismarck. He said it's the rule of 24. If you had a great game and we won, you got 24 hours to celebrate it, because after 24 hours, you got to move on to the next one. And if it was bad, same thing, right? And so I tell my guys the same thing. If you have a great broadcast, good job, high five. Let's celebrate it a little bit, but let's move on to the next one. And conversely, if it was terrible, then it was terrible, right? And it happens to all of us. But you have another one to do tomorrow, so you can't dwell on the one that just happened, right? So just being able to see those guys come through here and understanding kind of where the success points are, and the why is the biggest thing. Broadcasting is broadcasting, and for the most part, you can do it differently, but for the most part, it's all the same. But the way we have to do it, because we're a cooperative, is just a lot different.
And there's so many different ways that in your come up in the industry, and Jordan Hassler is with me. I'm Bryan Fenley, where you talked about the blood, sweat, and tears that you face and that we all certainly face in this industry. And even despite that, what I love about you, Jordan, is there's not a hint of cynicism in your voice, where I often come across people in the industry and they might be feeling down, or maybe they missed out on something, and they carry that aura with them.
Yep.
And they're not able to let go of that. And then when they don't let go of it, then it's as if they limit their dreams. They cap things. And what I see from you is that there is such a power in limitless dreaming. And how have you seen that play out in your vision for yourself and your company and the growth of your product?
Well, I think what's most exciting, and I tell my guys all the time, is you're not going to be here forever, especially the talent guys, right? The talent industry it's on to bigger and better things. And I've had people from all California, Indiana, Illinois, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota. A couple guys came out from Philly, a couple guys up from Florida. Right now, my staff is South Carolina, Wyoming, New Jersey, and Texas. And so they come from all over, right? And what they get an opportunity to do is really to prove themselves, to refine their craft. And I've told every talent guy that's walked in the door, at some point you're going to want to get out of here. And when you want to get out of here, you tell me, and I'm going to do everything I can to get you out of here. And we've had some great success. Just a few that I think have been great. Stephen Watson is the host of Brewers and Bucks live for Bally Sports Wisconsin. Great employee. Steven was awesome. He was loved by everybody. Pat Boylan, who's works with the Indiana Pacers and is the voice of the WNBA team there, the Indiana Fever, was here. He started here, was his first job out of college. Noah Reed, who just
Yep.
recently left us. Noah's, was calling FCS semifinals for ESPN, is now a full-time ESPN employee. We have Cooper Perkins, who spent a short time. He's doing lacrosse, the NLL down in San Diego. Mick Tidrow is the voice of the Ball State Cardinals on the radio side. And so I think, we've had some really, really super talented people come through this door. And it was interesting because this happened a while ago. But these guys would come up with their parents, right? With mom and dad. And here's a kid who's 21, who's, it'll take Stephen, for instance, coming from Dresher, Pennsylvania. And he's so far from home, and mom and dad are well respected. And one was a clinical psychologist, one was a cardiologist. So, very people. And I could see in mom's face when he got dropped off that, there was some concern. And I pulled his mom aside and I said, listen, I'm going to take care of him and I'll watch out for him. And if anything goes wrong, I said, give me your number. I'll make sure I keep you
Wow.
informed. And it's funny because that same fall, him and I were calling a football game together. He was doing play-by-play and I was doing color. And we were on a lift, about the 20-yard line based on the field, poorly lit field, rural North Dakota. And there was the plays were happening on the far hash, on the far 20. It's a long shot, right? And he kept saying the wrong number. And we got to a break and I said, you can't see that, can you? He said, what? I said, you can't see that, can you? He goes, no, I guess I'm struggling a little bit. I said, you got two options. And this is all on a commercial break. I said, you go get glasses or I'll call your mom. And as I sit here today, he would guarantee that story happened.
Wow.
And he went to the eye doctor the next week and ended up with glasses, still has glasses this day. And I didn't have to call his mom. So at this point, I'm 27, 26, but I felt like a foster parent to these guys. And I wanted to see them succeed. And I've changed headlights. I've housed some guys that were in between apartments, that have, slept in my basement. I haven't had to do any bail money, which is good, at least to this point. But I've saved some people. I've gotten people out of ditches before. I picked up people when they had a little bit maybe too many libations out and about. But yeah, I mean, listen, these guys are, it's different now. I'm 38 with 3 kids, and our staff's a little bit different, so I'm a little bit more disconnected. But going through the process, I really try to take care of these guys, and I wanted them and their parents to know that they were going to be, they were going to be okay. And if something went wrong, that I was going to be here to take care of them. And I still am, right? I still am, still taking care of these guys as best I can. But I don't know. I mean, you want to see them succeed. And when someone succeeds and they do their thing, it's always a fun experience to watch them and go, that was one of my guys, right? That was one of my guys. And so I think I take a little pride in that. Every time someone succeeds, I take some pride in knowing that I was a small part of that. And I've got in my drawer here, I've got thank you notes. I keep every one of them from guys that have left, and thanks for giving me the shot, and thanks for taking me under your wing. And not only do I do that on the on the professional side, but on the personal side. Stephen Watson played in the softball team, the slow pitch softball team I played on. Mick played on the slow pitch softball team. Noah played on the slow pitch softball team. So I want to include these guys. We did, I bring them over for Thanksgiving when they're not going to go home. We've had Christmas dinners, Friday night steak fries. Just, I know I've never had to be that far away from home, but I know it's important and to have that support system. And so seeing them succeed and, and kind of fostering that it's been a lot of fun, to see the success they've had.
Jordan, you are a gem in this industry, and it's hard to find people. I wish there were more people like you in this industry. And the way in which you have been describing how you take care of people and then what you get out of it, and how there's such an altruistic nature about you, and how you create this family atmosphere, and you get people that come in from all over the country and they don't know what it's like. They're moving and they feel maybe out of their own bubble, but then you make them feel comfortable. This is why I wanted to have you on, because like when I started this conversation, obviously we're talking about, there's the coaching tree, but then there's the broadcast tree. And you were just talking about some of the broadcasters that have come through that tree. And it's not that they come and then they go. It is a lifetime, a lifelong, passionate relationship with each one of them in wanting them to succeed. And that's what makes you special. It's you have a job to do, but you do so much more than what the job details of your job are. It's you care. And the bottom line, as we wrap up this conversation, Jordan, the fact that you have done that, you deserve so much kudos. And I look forward to the opportunity to meet you. And I'm so grateful for the chance to tell your story here and for you to be able to go down those roads with me and to have such a positive impact on the industry. The industry is better because of you. And I thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely appreciate the opportunity. Like I said, when you have the opportunity to do good, why wouldn't you? And I think that's the attitude I've had. Why wouldn't you take the high road? And I think it served me pretty well so far. And I don't foresee that changing anytime soon. So.